Welcome to Startup Greece Talks. On this episode, I will meet Alex Harris, co-founder and CEO of Adadot. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Thanos. Lovely to meet you here in the digital world.
Great pleasure. It's my honor to have you here. I would love to learn more about you. And let's start with where are you right now? What's going on?
So I'm in London. I mean, obviously the background is fake, which is from Paris, funny enough. So a bit of a random one, but I typically spend my time between London, Athens, and wherever else I need to be for the startup needs.
Which is your favorite place?
Oh God, tough question. I would say Mauritius for obvious reasons.
Okay. So I would say that it's probably the world. I mean, the virtual world, not something real world, but it's accepted. So great to know. And I would love to learn more about your background and who are you actually?
Oh, wow. Tough questions from the get-go. So I am essentially the daughter of a psychologist and an engineer. So that's where I'm coming from when it comes to looking at human behavior at scale, which is what we do at Adadot.
So could you tell me more about your background and your and if you have ever thought that you're gonna be an entrepreneur and you're gonna do and solve issues for other companies, because you told me about you are a daughter of an engineer and a psychologist. So tell me more about your story and how you come up with the idea and you finally build your startup.
Yeah, so I think taking that as a starting point, I studied politics. I had the opportunity of, doing that across a couple of verticals, but also in some of the best places that you can potentially do that. But everything that I kind of always done in the space of politics, marketing, afterwards, project management, everything was kind of centralized around the idea of understanding, as I said before, kind of human behavior at scale. Now, in terms of the entrepreneurship aspect, my dad has, been in that position, so I've seen the ups and downs. Some would say that this kind of like drove me to do it, but I would say if anything, because I've seen the ups and I've seen the downs, actually that kind of put the fear of entrepreneurship in my heart in a way. So I was kind of, I think from one standpoint wanting to do it for a while, but from the other standpoint waiting until the right idea and the right problem came along, and it for me kind of needed to be a natural and organic transition.
It's not well, it's not so common to find people that coming from that the background, the studies that you had, and to turn and to be on the, let's say, startup world, and the same time not only startup world but working with data, working with from the engineering part. So doing machine learning and product related things. So what makes you to do that turn?
Yeah, so there's a few of us, I guess, with kind of backgrounds like from an academic perspective from institutions like Oxford. Then the circle becomes even smaller if you look at who solves kind of product based problems, and then the circle becomes even smaller if you look at machine learning, and then the circle becomes even smaller when you look at essentially the gender aspect of that. So I like being a bit of an anti-pattern. I kind of use it sometimes to my advantage. It's weird, it's different. And I think it just makes it a little bit more interesting.
Okay, let's jump now. What is Adadot and what are you doing? And yeah.
Yeah, so essentially we are a big data solution. We help developers get into a state of flow, which for those who are not familiar with some of that lingo, if you think about anybody that's a top performer, whether that is a professional athlete, whether that's a stock, let's say the Apple stock over the next last 10 years, everything fits in a curve. It's all down to momentum. So what that means is that you'll take a very different decision if you're at the top of the momentum, and a very different decision or action if you're at the bottom of that momentum, right? So, it's like the typical, do I buy or do I sell that stock? Very simple. Now, we do that for developers. So we help them understand at what part of the momentum they are and what actions to do to either stay on that momentum or essentially get on that momentum in the first place.
And how you do it? I have seen that you are using AI, and
Mhm.
it's a trend right now with ChatGPT, or everybody's looking to invest, is looking to learn more, to use tools like this. So tell me more on how you are doing that.
Yeah, so it's a trend word, but obviously we've been in that trajectory for a while. And people talk about overnight success of ChatGPT. I mean, they've been working on this for 7 years. So anything that you see that's AI based is almost never an overnight thing. It takes ages. So in essence, what we do is we take data from tools that a developer is using on their day-to-day basis, and that is a very 360 definition. So we use code versioning tools like GitHub, GitLab. We use collaboration tools like Slack, Calendar, like Google Calendar, task tools like Jira, CI/CD, IDE. There's like a broad spectrum. And then what we do is we apply the same kind of formulas you look to apply on productivity and momentum, essentially, analysis in stocks and shares. So it's kind of something that has existed before in the finance industry. We apply that to kind of human performance.
Great idea. And the implementation, um, you are already in the market, so you have implemented to some customers. Uh,
Yeah.
how's it going so far?
Yeah, we already have customers. They're already using the system. It's early days, but so far the results are really, really promising. So we've helped so far teams understand basically what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, and kind of take the right decisions to kind of improve it. And the best thing is you can actually measure the output and the outcome of some of those actions directly through the platform. So you know if you're doing the right thing or not, because the data will tell you that.
Who is the one that loves your product?
Ooh, there's a few I have in mind. I guess one of the ones I can kind of speak directly about is a customer called Blueground. You might have heard of them. They're a Greek American company, I believe. But they're an amazing team, and the great thing about them is that they invest in their people more than anything.
So everybody that would like to invest on its own people would love to work with your analytic software, isn't it?
Yeah, specifically their engineers. So we work really well with teams that have a really strong engineering culture. I think if you want to use a monitoring tool, there's other tools out there that do this. We would never work with teams that want to do that. And that's a very clear line in the sand. So yeah, so love the people, they love us basically.
And you are in the market for the, let's say, one more year, isn't it?
So we've been in the market for almost a year with this product. We kind of raised the pre-seed back in May 2022. This later version that has the AI assistant has only been in market for a few months.
Ooh.
So it's actually kind of like a recent development.
So you have found the product market fit, and you are growing. What's the business model behind it?
So we have a kind of typical SaaS model of charging per developer seat. And in some cases, we do annual contracts as well if it's like a bigger enterprise or a more sizable client.
How big it would be the contracts, and what you really, I think that something for a company, in order to buy it, has to give some advantages, and I mean that you have to provide some measurable results. What is the thing that companies uh, like in your software, and they like to buy it? So what is exactly, I mean, the the thing that makes the decision makers to say, let's buy this because we, let's say, decrease our costs, or we make our team more productive, or what is the thing that you provide?
So we call it a win back. So typically, each engineer has a couple, well, more than a couple of bad days a month. So we help reduce those. So essentially, that means that for every junior developer, you get back 3 to 5 days a month of their time being actually productive. For seniors, is a bit kind of less because they have obviously different aspects of the work, different needs. They kind of know how to manage themselves a bit better, but that's kind of like on average. And in terms of ACV, I mean, ideal customers are typically 100 developers, 100 developers plus, or slightly smaller if they're remote. That's kind of like the sweet spot. Right now, as we progress as a tool, obviously we're starting to speak to larger and larger customers, so our ACV constantly evolves.
Okay, that makes great changes, I think, to the companies, and they could have great profits out of it. I mean, by using the full potential of their engineers, their teams. So that's very nice and quite let's say with great potential. And let's see the market, how big is on what you are doing.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at how many developers there are globally, so you're looking at about 28 million in the next kind of couple of years. Based on some of those projections, you can say that that might increase up to 40 million in the next decade or so. So it's a growing market. It grows rapidly. And most of the products that nowadays we consume are digital. So they're very, very key, I think, in the next generation of products and services that everybody is about to consume.
Where do you see your software, your company in the next 5 years? I think it's the most common question that you could hear from everybody.
Yeah, so we're starting with obviously something like our tool now, which helps teams and developers make the best out of themselves and of the people internally. But we want to open that data and make it publicly available. So in the future, we want to be the #1 developer experience platform globally. We want to be the source of truth of what good looks like for developers. So that's the bigger piece. That's the bigger ambition. And we're we're creating it brick by brick, I would say, every single day.
Is there any other player in the market and looking to get that field?
There are tools which are mostly in the data visualization space. So we're much more in the insight space. We do include visualization just because people sometimes want to look at data, they want to look at charts, and it's just easier. But that's becoming less and less core of the platform. The platform is directional. That's one thing. And the other thing is that the platform is going to open more and more and more to kind of outside benchmarking and kind of stuff like that. So that's where the differentiation is, as well as our 360 definition of what good looks like. Most tools out there focus on very specific developer metrics and churning code out. We don't necessarily think that's where we should be focusing.
Okay, and this is something that makes you make the difference in the market and something that you are offering as a competitive advantage. So that's great. That's great. So tell us more about the financial situation. So what's going on so far? You have enough runaway for the next round. You have already raised some money. So how's it going?
Yeah, so we're out fundraising at the moment. We have planned sufficient runway to help us get there. So hopefully we're gonna get some really good investors on board, same as we've done before.
Okay, so what's the plan for that? What's the request that you have? Where would you like to go with that?
Yeah, so we are raising, let's say, a couple of millions. Could be a bit more, depending on what the market says. But essentially, we're looking to get to 24 months of runway, hire a VP of sales, hire a VP of AI infrastructure. And these are going to be the two key people that we're looking to bring in the next round.
So the visibility that you get from campaigns, let's say campaigns, it's not campaign, it's actually the visibility from platforms like Product Hunt. It's something that has helped you, or it's something about marketing and not there is no result, there is not return out of this effort.
Oh, we had great results from Product Hunt. We had inbound from enterprises, which actually is quite rare to see on the platform, which was really good. Really public adoration of the product and really positive reviews. So that's open for anybody to see, which is great. You don't get that from every kind of type of activity. But at the end of the day, you can't launch a Product Hunt every week, right? So you gotta, keep on reaching people and being front of mind. So this is why essentially we were kind of adding more efforts to get the name out there.
Okay, and you are working, you are in the market for with this product the quite, let's say, some months. So what, tell me more about the team that you have. And you said that, I have read that you have the perfect CTO. Could you tell us more about that, the CTO and the rest?
Yes. Yeah, so he's the CTO and co-founder. So he's somebody who has experienced the problem firsthand, working for a unicorn like Ocado, which is like a massive UK-based company. Imperial education, as you can imagine, so very much of his game. And in terms of the rest of the team, we have a PhD data scientist. We have some fantastic technical leads, UX and front end, back end developers. All are, I think, top of the game. And then we have a couple SDRs, really, really great guys. Really, really good team. I'm very, very proud of them.
Okay, I think that the team is quite important, especially on the early first steps, and the ambition of the founder, the founding team is quite important too. What are your thoughts about the tool, the space that you are? I mean, where you believe that's gonna go? What are we waiting with AI and the tools that are going to be developed in the next few months or years?
Yeah, so these are a few different questions. In terms of where the industry is going, I think there's going to be always an increased interest into developers, just because they're very important, they're very expensive, they're key for most businesses in the future. Let's be honest. I think the industry is ripe for disruption. So it's in the same stage that I think salespeople were about 20 years ago when Salesforce came on board. Like they didn't have a system of record or an understanding of what good looks like, which I think is absolutely insane if you think about it now. So I think that's what's happening in terms of AI specifically. What we're seeing right now is one of those famous AI cycles. So I'm old enough to remember some of the first ones as well. They happen every now and again. um it's never as bad or as good as people think. So the kind of improvement right now into the state of the art is mostly around semantic search, which is a very specific part of a developer's kind of work cycle. It doesn't do anything else about all of the other aspects of a developer's work, right? So it's a really, really fast, really great Google, an amazing Stack Overflow. That kind of like that's the way to kind of think about it.
So where do you believe it's gonna, what else gonna be developed and really help the growth of the tech world?
We're seeing some really good steps in terms of infrastructure. Obviously, I'm going to talk about kind of the productivity aspect being very much supercharged in the last few years. Like the discussion around what good looks like from an engineering standpoint has increased dramatically. Like you can look at Google searches and trends and you'll see that increase is absolutely measurable. So that's fantastic. Other than that, I think it's going to become easier to develop certain applications for sure that are very much kind of out of the box, kind of ready, and kind of pretty much good to go. It's going to be harder, I think, to solve more complex problems, as it always has been. But the complexity is for sure increasing.
Great to know, and I'm looking forward to make another question from another perspective and more to be more chill, because we discuss about technology, we discuss about things that gonna come the next few years. Um, you are in the UK the last, let's say, about 20 years, isn't it? So
Yeah, 15 plus, I think, something like that.
you are traveling back, but you are based mostly in the UK. So, what do you think visiting Greece, and what are your thoughts about the Greek startup ecosystem?
It's getting definitely better. It's different than the UK. Like the UK is way more mature. So you have some good founders, some of the brain drain coming back into the country. I think with some of the recent changes in legislation and with COVID, a lot of people relocated back. So I think we're going to see a bit of a kind of resurgence locally. Whether it's going to end up being a tech hub, like for example Israel, I think that's still to come potentially. But personally, I'd like to see some more effort from the government, which I think they're already doing, to kind of make this more of a tech destination in Europe.
Are you working with Greeks?
Yeah, yeah, we're working with Greeks. Some of the team, or most of the engineering team, is in fact Greek. So there's definitely a strong Greek element into the company. We are a UK company, however, at the end of the day. So we kind of have our legs in kind of each side of the continent.
Okay, that's great. And I would like to ask you my favorite question. So, and this is about a funny story that you have to share from the whole entrepreneurship journey that you had.
So which is a funny story.
Yeah.
Oh, a funny story. You know what? I'd say how we came up with a name of the company. So there's like a lot of spins you can give it. Like you said, it was Ada Lovelace, the first woman programmer, or adding a dot, Ada dot. All of that is a lie, basically. So what happened was I was on a beach in down in Bolivar, funny enough, a few years ago, and I was really pissed off because I had missed out on the opportunity of snuggling singularmind.com. Somebody else like snagged it right underneath me. And I was thinking, what about this business I had in my head? Like, look, whatever I can find that I can get the .com available, I'm going to buy it. So there was a bunch of other things that I bought on that day, but one of the names was this one, and we kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, that's great. And it's very, unique what you do, and the name, it's really unique. Uh, and what do you believe actually? Are we far away from the com bubble, or it's not something that we're gonna face the next few years or months?
Oh man. So one of the things about predicting the future is that hindsight is 2020. And a classical thing when you deal with data and prediction is your path dependency. So you always tend to predict what you have essentially seen in the past. I don't know if it's a bubble from a tech perspective. I think it's mostly maybe a bubble from a financing perspective. And these two things are slightly different because great companies are still being built. There's just less money floating around just right now. So I don't know how that's going to evolve, but I know a lot of people are getting laid off, and these people are creating new companies though. So maybe there's going to be a whole resurgence.
Yeah, behind the kind of crisis, there are, both sides. And but if we see the crisis as an opportunity, it depends on how you see the situation that you are facing. And there are lots of opportunities. We have seen great during the recessions. We have seen great startups that are, back to 2008. Too many startups have been developed from them, and then we've seen also in Greece startups starting developing during the crisis in Greece. So yeah, it depends on how we look the things, and which perspective we have. And to wrap up, I would like to ask you about your favorite quote, or what inspires you to do what you are doing.
I think I'll go with a quote, which is like always be closing ABC. So a friend of mine used to say this a lot in a previous company, and it's kind of like people ask me, "Do you have a deck? Do you have?" I always have a deck. I'm always fundraising. I'm always hiring, and I'm always selling. So you know, at any point in the day or night. So I think that's kind of like a key quote.
Okay, that's nice. You're selling and you're selling and you're selling. You're pitching, raising money at the same time.
Always.
That's a great attitude and a great perspective. So thanks a lot for being here and sharing with us what you are doing and how you support the tech world and the engineers. That's quite important for the rest of the ecosystem. Thanks for your thoughts about the world and what's going on and the predictions that you gave us. I hope to be in touch and discuss further in the next few years and check out what happened finally.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.